What if the history you've been taught isn't just a series of dates, but a list of people who are still waiting for you to come home? Think about the weight of a name, a few syllables passed down through generations, printed on birth certificates and social security cards. You think it belongs to you, a fresh start in a modern world. But what if your name isn't a gift? What if it's a tracking device? What if the reason you feel so isolated in the suburbs of Ohio isn't your job or your house, but the fact that something from a century ago has finally found your frequency? Welcome to Shadowland, a place where darkness breathes and silence speaks. Tonight, we explore a harrowing true account of a man who went looking for his roots in the dusty archives of an old New England church, only to find a record that shouldn't exist. A story that suggests our past lives aren't just memories. They are debts that the universe is finally ready to collect. Stay until the end, because you might realize that the face in your mirror isn't the only one looking back. It was a great Tuesday in late October, the kind of afternoon where the Pacific Northwest mist feels like it's trying to swallow the road. I had driven 4 hours to a small, forgotten town in the Appalachians, driven by a sudden, inexplicable urge to visit the church where my great-grandfather was supposedly baptized. The building was a skeleton in lanes of white timber and stained glass, standing in absolute isolation against a backdrop of dying pines. I felt a brief sense of safety when I met the caretaker, a frail man who smelled of old paper and peppermint. He led me to the basement, a liminal space filled with the heavy, sweet scent of damp stone and rotting wood. He pulled a massive, leather-bound ledger from a shelf, the spine cracking with a sound like a breaking bone. The 1880s records, he whispered, his voice a mechanical rasp. I began to flip through the yellowed pages, my thumb tracing names that have been dead for over 100 years. Then I stopped. On a page dated November 14th, 1887, I saw it. My name, not my grandfather's name. Not a variation, my full middle and last names. Elias Torn Vance. The ink looked fresh, a deep, copper-tasting red that seemed to pulse against the parchment. But it wasn't the name that made my blood turn to ice. It was the notes column next to the entry. The note read, "Died 1887. Died 1887. Returning 2026. I felt a why me. Factor hit my chest like a physical blow. I looked up at the caretaker, but he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at the shadow I was casting on the wall, a shadow that was currently standing up, even though I was sitting down. The shadow's limbs moved with a stuttering frame rate glitched rhythm, its fingers growing impossibly long and knuckleless as they reached toward the ledger. "You're late, Elias," the caretaker said, his face smoothing over into a pale, featureless mask of skin. The congregation has been waiting in the crawl space for a century. I didn't wait for him to finish. I bolted, I sprinted through the basement, the sound of ribbons, wet clicking, echoing behind me from the darkness of the pews. I reached my car and tore down the gravel path, not stopping until the neon lights of a suburban gas felt safe once I reached my house, locking every door and window. I told myself it was a prank, a local eye darkened light to design to scare tourists. I went to the bathroom to splash cold water on my face. I looked in the mirror, but I didn't see the man who had driven to that church. I saw a man in a high-collar everyday suit, his skin the color of a wet sidewalk, staring back with eyes that were nothing but smooth, pale flesh. I touched my cheek, and the reflection did the same, but its motion was 3 seconds slower than mine. As I backed away, a message began to fog up on the glass from the inside, written in the same copper-colored ink from the ledger. Welcome home, Elias. We've saved your seat. If you want to survive the next night in Shadowland, make sure to subscribe and leave a light on in the comments. It helps us find you in the dark. Sleep well. If you're sure you were the first person to live in your skin.